we are. All right. So we are live. This is Chime Wolf. Ask Chi anything. Um, yeah, I'm gonna give it a moment for folks to come in because tonight here at Ask Chi Anything, we're gonna do a little special thing today. You know, I've been thinking a lot about this topic, and I figure maybe this might be something that people want to hear about coming out, like hear my story, hear other people's story, talk about what does coming out mean, what does coming out looks like, and like what is this, and why is this like such a big deal for Korean individuals. So anyway, so we got two people on Instagram, we got three on Facebook. We're gonna give it another minute or two for others to join because I know that this is an interesting topic for some people. It's for some people it's a mysterious topic. Hey Bobby Lee, how's it going? So let's take a look here, see what we got in here. So, oh hey, Mitri, thanks. Hey, how you doing? Off of Facebook. So, for those people coming on Facebook, if you can't say hi, please say hi. Same thing on Instagram, and same thing on YouTube. So we are live here on YouTube, Facebook, and as well as Instagram. And today, I was just starting to say like today's topic is going to be around coming out. You know, it's kind of interesting because coming out is like a people think coming out is just a thing for LGBTQ folks, and I've been thinking a lot about it, and it's not just that. So figure today might be an interesting day to talk about that. Let folks ask question. Hey Matt, hey Viola, hey Tina, thanks for joining, thanks for coming in. So yeah, so anyway, go give it another minute before we dive right in. And for folks who's joining who have no idea what is this coming out thing or what is this about, feel free to ask any question, put any comments you have, try to be nice if you can. And for those who are in in the LGBTQ community and wish to share their own stories of coming out or what their opinion of coming out is or anything like that, feel free to put it in the chat as well, because it's I am one person. I am Chime. I do not wholesale own or represent the entire queer community. I have my own experience, and I have things to say about myself, and things I've learned, things I experienced, but I do not wholesale, own, or represent the queer community. So, yep, yeah, it is a very broad term. Yeah, Bobby Lee is a very broad term. Like people talk about coming out. What is this? And why is it even important? Like, why is there literally a whole day called National Coming Out Day? And actually today we're gonna talk. I'm gonna talk a little bit even more broad than just as an individual. So it might be interesting, might be not. Who knows? We got 9 people here on Facebook and 2 other people on Instagram, and it might be an interesting topic for some. It might be the first time you ever hear about this conversation, or it might be literally something that you live on a daily basis, like myself. Because honestly, coming out is not a one-time thing. To me, living my life is a daily coming out day for me. So, and that might be the same for other people. So, anyway, so we are now 6:04. So I'll probably start, at 6:05 to kind of have a little more, conversation. So we got 10 people, coming in on Facebook. Anybody else want to say hi? Just do a little wave, do a little thing. Just come on, join us in. So, all right. So it's 6:05. So I'm gonna start this talking about myself, but again, anybody, please chime in. Please chime in with your own question. Not just about me, just about the idea, the terms, the concept. The practice. If you wish to share your own story, if you wish to share a story that you heard of, but making sure you respect people's identity, names, consent of who they are, things like that. Not out somebody. Okay, don't if you're gonna use somebody's story, don't out somebody. So uh, wow, we got 12 people coming in on Facebook. So, oh hey, Becky, hey cousin Becky, hey Christina, hey Lycan, thanks for joining. Yeah, interesting topic on the coming out conversation. And so you know what, I'm just gonna go start, and because we only got an hour on this, and honestly, this topic is way too long for 1 hour. And again, I don't wholesale represent the queer community. I do not, not everybody has the same experience as me. I'm gonna share my experience. Other folks who is chiming in, wish to share theirs, are very much welcome, but also very welcome to ask question. And this is all about learning and curiosity. So my coming out story is it's really interesting because right now I am very publicly queer person. I am a non-binary person. I'm a woman. I use the pronoun they, them, she, her. I am a queer person of color, and all these ways. Yes, the list goes on and on. Gender queer, all that such. And it was not like this 10 years ago. 10 years ago, when it was 2010. Like I was more out. I was already kind of out to some friends, out to some colleagues, and I didn't really come out until really like mid 20s, so like 24, 25. That's when I started kind of telling my friends, like, hey, I'm gay. First, like, I was like, maybe I'm bi. But then I'm like, oh, maybe I'm gay because as a woman, yeah, I like the same sex, same gender, same sex. And so the easy path sometimes, like, oh, maybe I'm bi. Then I'm like a lesbian, and then and just trying to figure out also, like, what is that mean, and what is my place in this whole meaning. And the first thing is kind of like trying, coming out to your friends, which is funny. Most of them are like, oh, okay, well, we kind of knew, we thought maybe you were bi or something, or some people like, oh, duh, we were just waiting for you. And I'm like, okay, but it's like, you know it's a scary thing because you don't know what people reaction is, especially if you live your whole life with people, including yourself. Internalized homophobia is a big deal, where you make jokes about queer people, you use the f word, fag word, or you use derogatory terms, you make fun of people, and use word like, that's so gay, like, you know and then realize that is you too, well, not realize, actually I know this, but really, saying like, hey, that's me. And then hopefully, like, not get ridiculed for it, not get rejected, and not be like exercised from your friends and community, colleagues, family, and all that such. It is a scary thing, and that was just really honestly when my first coming out. And years later, I started dating, but and start being more in the community and learning and stuff like that. Years later, I didn't really honestly come out to my family until I was around 27, 26, 27. And I had just gone on this big road trip, which I kind of like did like a 4 months road trip around the country. I have no destination, no direction. I just drove for a long time, and just end up in the most amazing place. And when I came home, I really feel like I was living my truth. I was living who I am. And so when I came home and I saw my parents, and I was sitting in a room, and my mom was the first person I came out to in my family. And I was like, Mom, I'm gay. And she paused, and she's like, and give it, granted, this was done in Chinese, so trust me, language barriers is already hard, especially when you're trying to come out. And And not everybody coming out story is like that, especially for people of color. There's a whole lot of nuance and such like that, and I could talk more about that in a little bit more. Um, and and I was like, yeah, and I was like, I'm gay, and she paused, and she's like, don't talk about it, and I'm like, oh, okay, and I'm like, oh, I stay quiet and continue doing whatever I was doing and move on. And I think the same day I went up to my dad and I said the same thing. Dad, I'm gay. And he did the same thing where he paused and he's like, don't talk about it. So there was this interesting thing where it's like, don't ask, don't tell kind of situation. It's like, really? But what was really scary was because it's not just that, coming out or telling my parents what's this. It's that, in a lot of Chinese culture, a lot of Chinese background, and even I have seen other Chinese queer folks that their family literally disowned them, literally kicked them out of the house. Like I was already 27 at the time, so I had my own job. I had my own place to live, so I didn't like rely on that. But to be shunned from my family, who I care, who I, really like is a big part of my life, and it was scary, and it didn't happen that way, but it was also like they didn't really acknowledge who I was, and so it was a mixed thing. A lot of times people, especially in Western culture, they when they come out, it's like a big celebration and celebration, and in some way, it is and it's not for me, and it was a very interesting scenario. I even, I think I came out to my sister maybe earlier than that, but I don't remember exactly. But I also, like, I remember she also did not acknowledge who I was. She's like, "Oh, it's just a phase." Call who I am is a phase. And I think none of my family took me seriously until I introduced them to my partner. And that was like, here is a physical manifestation of my love. Yeah. So and then they have to accept it, kind of. When they so that's also something that interesting to talk about as far as coming out is like not only you have to come out, but like they have to kind of figure out how they come out to their friends about me, because it's like, hey, this is my daughter and her friend. Yeah. Um, so that's also another process, which I know that at least my mom, who's still alive, is still working on it. My sister, I'm much better, and it's a thing, and so that's like kind of like the family story, But as I want to talk more about this, is like the coming out thing is not just like, hey, I'm gay. It's that how to live as authentically as you can, but also recognizing what are we doing when we come out, because not there's a lot of conversation about privilege and the nuances of different privileges. I was very privileged and still am that my family did not disown me, where I have friends in the Chinese culture, in other culture, where their family have shunned them, had disowned them, has been abusive to them because of who they are. And so like these are real stories, where people are literally like disappearing in life. I'm I didn't get that, and I'm very honored about that. But I'm also very honored of the different experiences other people have in these ways, because like I, as a why I am non-binary and I am masculine of center and a woman, I don't experience certain things that a black lesbian do or a trans woman experience. Stories where people talk about coming out is like without sharing different names or anything like that. I know like you know some people who is like maybe they have always been perceived as a straight because they always in a straight relationship with a man or with a woman, or man and woman relationship, or in a hetero relationship, and then all of a sudden they come home with this other person who is the same gender or might be trans or whatever it is, and they have to come out to that family as this is their love or what their identity is, and that is also very scary. And also I wonder what their parents would see of them, like, would they accept you, now that you have this other partner or this other love or this other thing in your life. So it's kind of interesting. So and it's scary, because again, our society right now, like even still now, don't really take us seriously until we are serious about who we are. And folks who are are transgender folks who maybe previously were going through then transition phase, but it's very new. They might be thought as like cross dressing or drag, doing drag or being non-binary. But then when they actually make the full step and taking that turn, people disappear in your life when you try to be as authentic as who you are and try to live your life. And yes, it is very liberating and validating to live who you are, but it also is very sad and disappointing. And you lose things, and that's that's just a relationship. That's before you lose, potential, like what we like to talk about, like privileges in our society. Like, you might be of this way, and then the moment you come out to the world as somebody like a trans person to your boss, and your boss has certain feelings about trans people, you might no longer able to have a job anymore. I know people have to travel to other towns, other areas, just to look for jobs because of who they are. I'm very privileged that while I am a non-binary genderqueer person, I will somehow walk in this world being a realtor and not have to worry about, I don't know, like losing my job, my income, right now. So that's like a really important like nuance to think about, and also like how I could be an ally to folks who do experience those things. Like right now, I know a good handfuls of like young folks who in their various housing situation because of being out of who they are here in Douglas County. And it's difficult to try to figure out how to support each other in these ways, because there are not a lot of housing situation for folks in general. Yes, even if you're straight folks, there's not a lot of housing option. But if you're a queer person, you're a trans person, that that opportunity, those options are strength to none. Like and I know the conversation about houselessness and how the city is dealing with homelessness. It's really complicated. And one thing I always wonder, and maybe this is a conversation we have the city council or the commissioner, is how is folks of queer folks, LGBTQ folks take into account when you talk about homelessness, when you talk about housing. So those are conversations to talk about. So anyway, I'm gonna see what some wow, lots of people already commenting already here. The topic of coming out is such an interesting one. I have heard someone else say this topic, queer folks like us oftentimes have to do it over and over again and with groups, individual, and if you have intersectional sexuality identities, you can anticipate it not always going the same every time. Yes. Yeah, it's I started this conversation out with like, it is almost a daily process to come out every day. I look what I look. The world, in a quick glance of me, think of me as a man. I know that. I know there's some privilege to be seen and walk in this world as a man. There's some safety things when, as a realtor, women realtor tend to get more assaulted than male realtors. And so I don't always have to face those challenges immediately, at least. because of how people see me on my signs and things. And people don't call me and say, hey, I want to see this house. And at that moment, well, maybe after I come out like this, they think that they hate to consult me. There have been those stories and situations, so that way. However, this is a very interesting scenarios where some folks in the realtor community knows me a certain way, and some people know me in other ways, and they might use she or her, they might use him or him or him, he or him, and some people who really know me will use they and them. The ones who use he or him is where the complication and the complexity of coming out comes in. When folks use those, I have to choose to decide if this is the time, this is the moment I come out to them as not who they think I am. And I have to make a assessment, a security assessment, to say, is it safe for me to have this conversation about who I am to this person right now? And and that's not just realtors, it's just anybody. Gas station, getting called sir, and I'm not about to correct people about my pronoun. That's not who what I'm about. I'm not about to try and educate you, but to the conversation. But what I'm trying to say is that what does it mean for me to tell somebody? It's like, actually, I'm not a him. I'm this way, and here, and what would that do to me, to my safety, for revealing who I am, essentially breaking their perception who I am. And does breaking their perception who I am put me in danger or hurt my livelihood? Do they say, no, I'm not going to do business with you because of who you are, or whatever? Or do they, I don't know. And that's a daily assessment. And or here's something really interesting. I don't even have to have a conversation. I go to Fred Meyer or wherever, Starbucks, well, not Starbucks, the Fred Meyer or whatever, place. And sometime you need to go pee. Yes, when you go shopping, especially like a Costco, when you go shopping for like half an hour, you need to go to the bathroom. I am a woman in non-binary in this way, and I don't feel comfortable going to the male's bathroom. But when I go to the female bathroom, I get double take from people. I get people like, oh, you went to the wrong bathroom. And there are times I'm like, no, I'm in the right bathroom. Outing myself of who I am or trying to explain myself. And that is a difficult conversation. And and because of, my, what my IDs say about who I am, how my birthday say who I am, and where certain things, how I, live my life, sometimes that danger is relieved. That's not necessary for a lot of people. For some people who cannot pass as this or that, and when they go into the bathroom, just to do what a basic human thing do, it could potentially be a danger to them. And so coming out is honestly, it's a very complicated conversation. It's not always liberation and flowers and bangles and tutu, rainbow tutu, and dancing and glitter. It's a process, and for some of us, it's a daily process. It's not one time with your friends, not one time with your family, and sometimes actually you might have to do it a couple of times because depending what your path is, or depending if they even deny who you are, it might be more than once. So it's something to important to consider. And so let me take a look. I have a comment here. I automatically assume I was bisexual. It took until rather recently to learn my true identity is pansexual. See, there's also assumption that comes into play, and also like really honoring, like recognizing who you are, honor who you are, because also like um you know your identity can sometimes be a little fluid because as we grow, as we learn, we know a little bit more about ourselves and learn to be a bit more authentic with who we are, be more comfortable with our skin. I did not look like this even 3 years ago. I did not look like this 5 years ago. I had longer hair. I had like yeah, I had hair, and it's a process, it's a journey. So okay, what else here? So Tracy said, "My heart aches for you and others who have to navigate coming out. I just hope and pray that someday people can accept people for who they are, and that idea that people who disown their uh, children or family like that." So yeah. Okay. So I can attest that there are times we tease ourselves because we believe it will dull the teasing of others. Yeah. Like I know that when I was young, I was homophobic as AF. Yes, admit it. I admit my fault. I admit my failures, and there's nothing wrong to admit that, because as long as I am learning and I am improving and I'm trying to do better and strive to be, to do better, that's the purpose. So, like, don't, for all the people out there, feel bad about, you make fun of, whoever, your cousin, your brother, sister, for whatever, and then they came out as whoever. How about this? Don't be so hard on yourself. Love them, accept them, listen to them, and support them, whatever, wherever they at. That's all we ask. So, okay. Well, maybe, your individual person might ask some more things. Who knows? Oh, see. I am so lucky to never have to really come out to my parents. I told my parents, I'm into this girl. I think we are going to a date. And she said, about damn time, we all knew it was coming. Yeah, there are times that's like, kind of, some people know. They just, I think for my parents, they probably knew. They just don't want to know. It's kind of like, how like the don't ask, don't tell. We knew, but we're not going to ask you. We're not going to, and please don't tell us. That's pretty much where my parent was. Other people parents are great. They just like, come on, when is this gonna happen? And I have heard so many stories of that as well. So those are amazing. As a parent, all I want is for my kids to be happy. Hey Chime, sorry I'm late. Okay. Hi Chime. Hey Danny. Hey Chris. Thanks for and oh Violet. Yes, the bathroom discussion, always my favorite. Yes. Maybe one of these days we'll have a really good bathroom conversation. Um, Jocelyn, thank you for speaking on this. It can be so exhausting to constantly be in fear of coming out to the wrong person every single day. My coming out story is still developing. Yeah, everybody's story is still developing. Um, yeah, but like, again, like our society right now still make fun of us, like, belittle us, like, again, you might think it's we've been sensitive when you say it's so gay, or even just the recent laws like don't say gay, laws here. But I also hope that people understand the impact of these words, these action to our community. And this is not to say you're not part of the community, you are, but just to like, it does severe damage. So you know what, I'm gonna do something real quick here, just for a pause. So I got some statistic from the Trevor project. The Trevor project got developed because if I don't know the history of it, but it is the LGBTQ organization. I know what the Trevor Project. I just can't think of it right now. I'm sorry, but it is an LGBT organization, and they do a lot of surveys, support a lot of trans and work and stuff. But here's something really interesting they did. They did a national survey on LGBTQ youth mental health, and it was done in 2021, so just last year. So they did a survey, nearly 35,000 LGBTQ youth aged between 13 to 24 across the country took the survey. And here's some interesting information for you to kind of digest. 42% of LGBTQ youth seriously consider attempting suicide in the past year, including more than 50% of transgender and non-binary youth have seriously considered attempting suicide. Here's a coming out story I'm going to tell you, or here's something I'm going to come out. I have died and got very close to attempting suicide myself in my 20s. And so this survey, over 35,000 youth across the country last year, not 2008, not 2001, not 1990, not many years ago. Last year, and this survey was done, over the pandemic and everything. 42% of LGBTQ youth seriously consider attempting suicide because whatever reason we don't feel like we could live our authentic life. We're not accepted. We are berated for being who we are. When we do come out, we don't feel like we feel like there's scary things that's left and right, and so sometimes we don't even feel like we should even be alive. I have that feeling myself. And something to consider us, y'all, to like think about this. Like, we want to be who we are, and we just want to be loved by who we are, and not feel like every time we go to the bathroom, it might be a scary experience for us. Yeah. So, anyways, let's take a quick look here. I hate that people assume I'm confused because I do have a daughter and currently pregnant. Like, no, I'm not. I like hearts, not parts. That's cool. Thanks, Christina, for sharing that. Cruz Morano, one of the things I love most about you, Chime, is your grace. You understand that challenges and choose to use these difficult moments as an opportunity to educate and help people understand. I think so. Yeah. It's. I know I have this privilege of using this platform. This, privilege of being able to walk in this world, do business, do real estate, have my face plastered all over Dutchess County, who to many people consider a very conservative, not very open, maybe even not very not friendly LGBTQ space. And I am doing this with this space, with this body, with this life, with this love. And also it's like people say like, oh, you're so brave. How about I just live my life? Like, why can't I just live my life, not have to worry? How about that? So, um, let's see what else. Okay, Danny, my parents still have weird views on my sexuality and my identity. Neither of them fully believe me. It's one of those cases where they still think I'm going to find a guy and settle down. That is a pretty typical thing I hear. Yes, yeah. And I don't know if Danny, you were here earlier, but even after I came out, until I had a serious relationship and I presented, here is a woman I love and care about. My own sister thought it was a phase, told me it was a phase. And it's not. It's still not. And it's interesting, and having to, you know, work with that in your own family, in your own relationships, in your friends circles, in your work circle. It's, and not And unless, and I don't want people to feel like you have to be this, you have to be queer, there's a certain way to be. Are you queer enough, or you gay enough, or you just need to be you, whatever that looks like. And there's not, you don't have to be like, hey, I have to wear a pink tutu, or a rainbow color or anything like that. I am probably somewhat kind of like most bland person you can see. Like, I wear button up shirt, jeans, that's it. Like, I don't go around with glitter, flashy things. I wear some pendants, but I'm not like decked out on rainbow gears. And we just need to be okay with living authentic life, what that means for ourselves. And hopefully our friends, family, circles, our work, um, accept us and not, judge us, not shun us, and, you know, put us off. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. And thank you everybody for participating, because this is a big topic, and I am very honored and very privileged to have this platform to speak about it. And I hope to be able to bring others to speak about it, because, as mentioned, I do not wholesale represent the queer community. I do not represent what it is to be legitimately out or legitimately queer, to be what it is mean to be this way. But I also know that by my personal lived experience and currently lived experience, what that struggle, what that is for me. So, all right. So let's see. Oh, I got some people on Instagram. So heck yes, I am learning so much here tonight. Well, I'm glad you're learning so much. Good. So that's also the thing. It's always a learning experience. I am even in learning process of my own self. Like, again, I am not the same last year. I'm still learning, and there's mistakes I make left and right, and to be graceful with ourselves, with each other, with others, and hopefully there's something amazing that comes out of it. So, all right, let's go over here. Oh, hey, Tawana, thanks for joining. A little late. Let's see. Oh, wow, I'm like blasting through this. Okay. Okay, hi, my beautiful friend. I appreciate you and your transparency and advocacy for creating openness. Christina, that is gut wrenching. Tracy, the Trevor Project. Okay, thanks for dropping in the link there, Tracy. Melissa, thank you for sharing your life and experience you may love. Essie, dang, I hit the wrong emoji. Hi, she just dropped by to say hi and thank you. You're welcome. I don't even know why I need to be thanked. I'm just here. So thank everybody for participating, for joining, for saying hi. So Melissa, Christina, you may not see my message. It's still hard for me to tell people I'm bisexual without having that thought of what people are thinking, because I'm married to a man. I hope eventually that feeling goes away. Yeah, like, for a lot of folks who are in, various hetero relationship, and then also be, but really want to be honored, that's the word, who they are as bisexual, as pan, as whatever. We just want to be seen. And sometimes, creating a space that feels safe for us to be seen, be heard, be allowed to be who we are, that's, some of the work that myself and others are trying to do. And so, all right, Melody. Oh, hey, Melody. Thanks for joining. Thank you for sharing. Love. And then Danny, some parents have their child's life planned out in their head, so it's hard for them to come to terms and be accepted. Yes, that is a really interesting thing, because I'm sure I am not a parent, so I cannot speak from my own personal experience. But I'm guessing every parent, when you have a new child in your life, you are coming from this hopes and dreams, and wanting the best for your kids and such. And for some Chinese parents, my own experience, my parents have a couple ideas for me. I get a professional job, make a lot of money, have a good life, maybe have a husband, and this, or get a business, have a good life, make a lot of money, have a husband. You know, it's always ends those ways. Like, job, money, husband. And I kind of did 2 out of 3. Kind of, I don't know. Like, um, they in I don't really know if that shatter in any kind of dreams out there, but I'm sure it's not easy. I did feel like, towards around the time, around the couple years, towards like when I was before I come out, they probably gave up hope on me having a husband. So I feel like they kind of knew. They just didn't want to talk about it. But for my sister, the husband thing was always a big thing. And that's what she has. And I love my brother-in-law, love my nieces, but as parents, I'm sure you guys have all these expectations, especially if you in hello normative experiences, that you have, like, oh, you want to see your daughter walk down the aisle to see the man of her dreams, who you want a man to take care of her, to protect her. It was actually kind of interesting. Is towards the end of my father's life, he was happy that I have a partner who, in a way, take care of me. And that was really interesting. But anyway, that was just a side note. So, like, what happens when you don't do that? Like, what happens you don't go to the profession that your parents always dream at? Whatever, what happens when you don't have the relationship your parents dream at? What if you want to be single for the rest of your life and your parents don't, think of that? And another, and there's something really interesting about, like, coming out is, I mentioned this earlier. It's like they also have to kind of come into terms with that coming out themselves, and they might also have to come out to their friends and family, because maybe they have all these hopes and dreams, and they told all the families and friends about it, and now that you've gone this way, so how did they talk to friends about it? My parents, like, well, she's traveling, or, well, she's doing that, or and it's interesting. So, um something I want to also touch on, is what does coming out affects others. Like I mentioned, like, about parents, but I recently had a conversation with a friend of mine, and I think he's on this call right now, and it's really that made a lot of made me think a lot. He told me that to be openly supportive of me, of who I am, and to be an advocate of who I am, means that he might be endangering his relationship, his community, his privileges, and stands, in the community. And I don't want people to love and support me means they, them go lose something in their life. But it was very interesting to hear that from somebody who cares and love me, and actually worries that by openly, publicly loving and support me means they lose this. So it kind of goes into deeply, like, if somebody who is straight, who's have every heteronormative straight, religious background and all that stuff, professional background, but to think that they could potentially lose something because of being publicly associated with me and loving me and advocating for me. I want you to imagine, what does that look like for somebody like myself, for trans women, for trans, trans a man, for a lesbian, for a gay man, for a bisexual folks, for any of us to come out as who we are, and all we're doing is just trying to live our authentic life regularly, like anybody. And so I find that, I the complication of all of this is really interesting. So let's see. Okay, let's see. Okay, Violet, I know I talked about this before. It was really tough coming out in the area that I grew up in, especially the last time I come out publicly as trans. I'm really grateful, though, that as queer individuals have the ability to create family, because that's one of the ways I've been able to survive. Yeah. Um, family is not just always blood. It's as how you chosen family is also a thing. Like, who do you choose to be in your life that so deeply supports and see who you are, that love you and care about you almost no matter what. And because you assume people in your blood family would do that, and sometimes that doesn't happen. So, and I also really want to point out something interesting is that I grew up in Oakland, California, in San Francisco Bay Area. For many people, they consider that as like the gay paradise, the queer mecca, the place where you want to be out, and you still say to be out. I grew up there, and I did not feel safe to be out, because being out, like I said, mean outing, to friends and family who did not knew who I was, who I am, or knew me as something else, or understood, presume who I am, and then now see me as who I am now. And again, that's the coming out, process, also very scary to people who, like, in your past, in your life, going with my mom to a Chinese restaurant eating, where her friends previously, I was like, oh, look at your daughter, and I was like, oh, is that your son, daughter, what, and sometimes you kind of come on this guilt, on your family, like, I have to put them through this, but I'm not, and because I'm just trying to be me, but I also see the pain that they have to endure just by mere fact of sitting in the same table before we even introduce each other, before we even do any greetings. Just the mere fact that it's like, oh, that's your daughter, and then introduce my partner at that time is like, oh, hey, this is my daughter's friend, partner, so anyway, uh yeah, so sometime actually going to another place is kind of nice, and kind of start over and be authentically you, and that's the only thing people know of you. So yeah, so all right, let's see. Okay, Danny said, I know it's not the same thing, but my dad and his family are Filipino, so the standards are set around the same. Yeah, yeah. So coming out also look very different in different culture, because you got culture, you got maybe religion at play, and in it's, again, it's not just like, hey, I'm this, and then everything is good. It's not always liberation. Is not always, oh, I'm free, now I can wear my tutu or glitter and all this. It's different for every culture, and in some culture, being queer is like, you get people who have been kicked out of the family. I seen this. And obviously every culture has some crappy people in them, and such. But sometimes homophobia is more ingrained. Homophobia, transphobia is more ingrained in certain culture, especially if there's religion tied to it. So, all right. Wow, 6:49 already. Okay, let's see. Erica, that's a sad commentary on our community. Christina, after I have this baby, I want to be more a part of our LGBT community here. Do what I can to help the youth in around here, because I know this area and can be super hard. So I might reach out to Chi to see how I can. Yes, Christina. Yes, reach out to us. We will love your idea, your involvement, and in the collective. And we also want to be, do whatever we can to support our youth. It's just a little plug here. One of our newest member, Kristen, is starting a LGBTQ youth support group, and so that is going to be for anybody who's, I believe, is 16 to 25. So that is a great place, as well as Adapt is also having a youth support group as well. So we're trying to we are recognizing there are certain gaps in the community and do what we can to fill those gaps, and having our career perspective in how to really take care of our community. So Christina, we would love for your feedback and for your understanding, especially you have grown up here to help us do that work. So yeah. All right. Oh, mute treat. Okay, so any non-binary person can be in risk at any time when other take action from fear and hate in their heart. I walked with heightened vigilance when I am in the company of those I dearly love. Yeah. So I think what Mirtri hit a point really interesting is that, like, for folks who are non-binary like myself, for other folks who are trans, for other folks who are visibly queer, sometimes we ask that people who walk a bit more in safety, um, because of how the world perceive, if you look like just look femme, or you look masculine, to be more vigilant of our own safety, because like I think that there's ways where I can walk in confidence as well, because half the time people first perception of me is a man, and in that whatever reason feel safer for folks, and they don't feel like they are threatened or have to threaten me. But as a non-binary person, again, I already talked about kind of almost a daily process coming out, and what does that look like, okay, so let's see. Okay, but sorry, I am on Instagram trying to get some information. Let's see. Well, we become more comfortable with what other thinks of us once we realize that it does not truly matter. Yeah, we do. However, there are still some safety issue, because sometimes how people perceive us, and the moment that we become authentic self, breaks that perception. If those people cannot handle that breaking of that perception, some of those folks can become violent, and that's when harm could potentially be created. So it's like that's all the fear, and there's been stories of those situation has happened, many stories where scenarios where somebody was talking to a woman and realized that this is a trans woman, and got so angry that they beat the crap out of this woman, because they're like, oh, you tricked me. Nobody tricked you. She living on her authentic life. So, and you just have a perception of her that you know now it's a little bit changing. Instead of acting like with any kind of grace, some folks act in violence. So yeah, if father's love should transcend the norm, that's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, my father, towards the end of his life, he really loved and cared about me, sometimes in the most awkward ways. And he thought I was trying to transition. He thought I was trying to be a man, and he even offered to pay for my surgery. That was really sweet, really complicated, and I love him dearly. So, all right, what else here? What we got here? My dad works for the juvenile department, and he said they are really lacking in knowledge of the queer community. Hey, if your dad in the juvenile department wants to speak with some of us here in the community, we got some amazing queer leaders that are being developed here. And Christina, I hope you'll be one of those to really speak with us and advocate for our community. So All right. Mirror treat. I am comfortable in myself. I'm on the edge in the community at large. That's good. So, yeah, like you know, I am very comfortable with myself, and also recognize that sometimes people are not as comfortable around me. Uh, and again, it's always it's a it's a security assessment. It's a life assessment. It's a what do I do with this current situation? Um, like sometime when I have a client who I met for the first time. I think I told the story before, but I'll tell it again. This client calls me up, say, "Hey, I would like you to sell my house." Never met this person. It was a referral, and I would always appreciate referrals, things like that. And my voice is very feminine. Is a very feminine voice. So, got the appointment, got it set, went there the next day, knock on the door, and be like, "Hey, I'm Chime," and things like that. And he was like, "Oh, I guess I was spoken with your wife yesterday, my wife." And I'm like, "No, you spoke with me." And that took a moment, and I think there was a moment where like they were shocked, and then they were also kind of like, and I know also there's a lot of news and things about like using the proper pronoun, be politically correct and other stuff, and I think there was a moment where like, oh, did they mess up? Did they use the wrong pronoun? Did they cause this whole thing? And I'm just like, no, like like, no, you talk to me, like, hey, let's go in there, let's take a look at your house and let's get this sold. So, and that's happens. So, okay, what else we got here? Um, or anybody has any things to share? We got actually 3 minutes. So, um, other things about interesting other statistic here is right here. This is again from the Trevor National Survey on LGBT Youth Mental Health, 2021. 94% of LGBTQ youth reported that recent politics negatively impacted their mental health. So also how we, how our politician and how the world, talk about, policies and legislation, you know, they don't think that it impacts us, but it does. And if you think about like the whole "don't say gay" laws that are being passed in Florida and other parts of the country, and they trying to say like, oh, it's not banning students from talking about it, but just the mere fact of a law like that that's potentially could be enacted, that has significant impact to our youth community. So we want to consider like what we do in our life, you might think has no impact on young folks, on us, on yourself, on anybody, but it does. And that's the thing also about allyship, is to like think about, yes, maybe it sounds like a great idea, let's take the queer conversation out of class, but a lot of us, especially youth, that is a stage where they are questioning for themselves. I didn't come out until I was 25, because there were no opportunity when I was growing up in the 90s in Oakland, California. Even when I was going, well, there was opportunity in college, but I didn't. I was not ready to explore that, even though I knew about that most of my life. But to really explore this conversation about my identity, who I am, and in becoming my true authentic self, there is a mental process involved, and if we don't have a lot of support to go through that journey, go through that process, it could be very detrimental, and people don't understand that sometimes. So anyway, all right, wow, that was 3 minutes apparently, 7 o'clock. So anyway, enough me blabbing around and talking. So thank you for the 12 people that attended and the 3 people that came on Instagram. I really appreciate you. It's 7 o'clock. If you wish to have continue this conversation, please message me. Please talk to me, and maybe we could have it live on air too. So, all right, guys. I'll talk to you guys another time next week, and we will also be doing more Ask Chi anything. And send me your questions. Send me anything. So.